Today I want to talk to you about metacommunication. The first thing I want to do is tell you why metacommunication is important. Second, I want to give you some examples of where you might find yourself involved with metacommunication. And third, I'm just going to wrap things up with some reasons why it's important to metacommunicate. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is what is metacommunication. Now, metacommunication is found in our textbooks on page 16. And it has a very simple definition. It just says metacommunication is communication that is about communicating. Or as I like to put it, simply talking about talking. Now, one of the best ways to explain metacommunication is to give you examples or situations where you might actually find yourself metacommunicating. Now, the first situation is an example that we found in our book, and I think it's also very helpful in this situation because it's something that we might actually find ourselves doing here on this college campus. Now, when we're metacommunicating, we might give somebody a paper of ours that we have written. Now, we're asking for a little bit of feedback on that paper, and when they read it, they've made some detailed notes, and we get it back, and as we go over it, we find ourselves actually kind of hurt by what they said. Now, they weren't trying to hurt our feelings or anything like that, and we go and talk to them and we say, hey, it's not really what you said in the paper, it's how you said it that actually hurt my feelings. This is a perfect example of metacommunication. In my personal life, the place that I found where I'm involved the most with metacommunication is actually in my relationship. Now, being in a long-term relationship, you will find metacommunication is a very big part of it. What I find kind of curious is it's often like seeing a car and owning that car. You're going to start to see it all over the place. If you have a red Ford Taurus, you're going to start seeing red Ford Tauruses all over the place. So when you learn about metacommunication, you start to see metacommunication all over the place. Now, I've been in a relationship for about 8 years, and we've had fights that are both big and small. And what I've noticed is when we communicate, we sit down, we say, hey, this is what kind of communication works best for me. This is the kind of communication I respond the best to. I don't respond well to yelling. Please don't put me down. Things like that. By expressing the way you would like to communicate, you are using metacommunication. Another example where you might find yourself using metacommunication is simply just talking to your friends and saying, hey, like, I was in a relationship and this made me feel this way. And you're explaining that through communication, you respond differently. When someone yells, when somebody does something, you're going to respond differently. By explaining how you want to communicate, you're metacommunicating. Now, what I find most important about metacommunication is the effect that it can have on a relationship. In order to communicate effectively and without hurting anyone's feelings, being aware of metacommunication is really important. Whenever you can tell somebody something and communicate in an effective way, it's going to get you to a resolution or just wherever you're trying to go within that communication a lot more effectively. And that's what's most important. Now, to conclude, metacommunication is simply communication about communicating. Talking to somebody about the ways that work best for communicating with you. Telling somebody that what they said made you feel this way. By doing that, you'll be a more effective communicator, you'll be able to get to better solutions, and you'll actually see metacommunication all over the place.